I know you've not got a huge amount of time, and I wanted to make use of you, sir,
Sure.
because I know you've been and seen Avatar 2, and man, I've heard conflicting things about this. Some people say it's glorious and it's James Cameron absolutely nailing it, and other people have said it's garbage. And well, I'd just love to hear your take on it, really.
Well, before that, I have to compliment you on the video that you posted this morning. Incredible breakdown of everything wrong with Marvel right now. At this point, also, no, that video is fantastic, like a mini documentary with your rant. But I don't see how they pivot from the corner they backed themselves into. I don't know where they're going to be able to pivot from everything they've set up, this sort of meandering phase four. So I'm just encouraging everyone watching the stream, you have to watch this video. Drinker posted a couple hours ago, I think.
Yeah.
So good. So
Thanks, man.
yeah, just had to tell you. But everything you're hearing about Avatar is true. And by true, I mean it is both. It is both god awful, horrible dialogue. The dialogue is so bad. I was in a movie theater that seated 500 people. I was in the theater with 20 people. The publicist had to come in to tell us to stop laughing because the dialogue is so
Damn.
bad, so god awful. The James Cameronisms are just all there on display. The drawn out ending where the villain's defeated. No, he's not. The villain's defeated. No, he's not. The villain's defeated. No, he's not. It's like Cameron threw all of his best films or most popular films into a blender and used all the elements of all of them, from Aliens to Titanic to The Abyss to the first Avatar. It's I'm just going to use a little bit of everything. And the story is stupid. Some of the logic gaps, there is a logic gap at the end that is a spoiler, but it is the dumbest thing. I mean, I'm sitting talking to friends, and we all walked out of the movie and said, that was stupid. That was awful. The plot was terrible. And I want to see it again because it was such a visceral experience. And also this is because it's been such a terrible year at the movies. And not just for mainstream blockbuster popcorn films, but also for awards films or films that could be taken seriously as dramas and whatnot. But it's been an awful, awful year at the movies. This movie almost stands in contrast to everything else. And that's the reasons that I liked it, in spite of all the things. You're going to be able to nitpick this forever. There's so much bad stuff in it. And at the same time, the action is glorious. It doesn't resolve everything. By the end, it doesn't necessarily set up part three, but you see the conflict is just there. There's more to come, right? But also, it's Top Gun Maverick stood out this year as like a movie that, like, hey, that's like it was made in a bubble without all this nonsense that we're inundated with. Effectively, agenda trumping storytelling. Now, I will say this: the movie is, while the last film was about colonizers plundering resources, unobtainium, this film is specifically about whaling. And there are whalers from Earth drilling into the brains of creatures of Pandora to obtain something else. I'm not going to get into spoilers.
Actually, you're going to say unobtainium is in their brains.
But no, so the thing is this: I'm sitting here like, I know with my brain this is a terrible film, and I'm enjoying it. Now, the other thing that's interesting, it's also partially a YA novel. It focuses on the children of Jake Sully as two boys and two girls. So it's almost like a coming of age on Pandora kind of thing. And the reason that I believe this film will be incredibly successful is because it does what so many of the movies this year didn't do. It's relatable. It's about a family with a strong patriarch, like not a father who's made to be an idiot. He is the patriarch. He is the father of this family, and he will do anything to protect his kids, and his kids act like kids of a teenage age. They have to move from the forest to integrate with the reef people, reef Pandorans, and that's a source of conflict. And there are many things that are just simply relatable, bullying, having a crush on a girl, conflict, father-son relationships. I haven't seen a functional, healthy father-son or family dynamic in a movie, and I can't remember when. Hollywood doesn't know how to make it, but Cameron did it. And as a father to a son and a father to a daughter, I'm looking at this going like, I think this is going to be a really popular family film. And it's very family, right? It's a family adventure movie that maybe Disney would have made decades ago. So in spite of, there's so many dumb things, I can't wait to talk to you about it. Like, there's just stuff that's objectively just terrible. I mean, James Cameron's strength was never dialogue. But it's like he designed all the action sequences and said, oh, I guess they should talk. And throw that in there. That's sort of brief. I mean, if you want to ask me questions, I'm happy to answer whatever. But I already have tickets to see it again next week, and I want to see it with a real audience, right? Like a paying audience.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're in an unusual position with this. Like you're telling me both like intrigues me and like drastically horrifies me, because it really seems like a soap opera just writ large with an enormous budget and crazy special effects. Like you've got the family moving to a new area and they don't like the kids don't like their new environment and they get probably bullied or something. They got conflict with the local kids. The parents have got to try and hold their family and their relationship together, and oh man, and it's all framed in this context of like blue Smurf people on an alien planet. I feel like it's going to be teetering right on the brink of absurdity.
First of all, you are correct, and every criticism that I've seen, I'm like, oh, I agree with all of that, and it's just so they're just parts. You're just like, that's why we were laughing so hard watching the movie. It's ridiculous. Having said that, this is like a movie Hollywood used to make, and there'd be 10 of these movies come out, and then you would judge them and go, well, this one is much better than that or whatever. But there's literally been 2 movies like this that have come out this year, Top Gun Maverick and Avatar 2. That's it. And everything else is this pounding the agenda into your head. Whereas I can't even say the message without saying it the way you say it, Drinker, and doing a little shout out. I don't know.
I would like to add one movie to your list. Didn't The Northman come out this year? And it was
true.
It was good.
But that's not a broad appeal film. That's not a popcorn movie. I would put that in the category more of an art film, which I also happen to really, really enjoy. But look, Top Gun Maverick, like I say, what that movie did, this is kind of like that in the sense that it's made by a craftsman, a brilliant filmmaker who can't write dialogue. Cameron has his strengths. Although I'm told that like 4 people worked on the screenplay, how the movie had this bad a dialogue is kind of shocking to me, but whatever. But
I always thought with Cameron movies, like, well, especially like in his heyday in like the late 80s, early 90s, like his dialogue was serviceable. It wasn't spectacular, but it was like fine. It didn't make me cringe or anything. But like, yeah, what you're describing seems like he's almost like George Lucas with the prequels. He's almost got too much creative control now, and there's no one to rein him in and help him out. And like, this is what you get.
Yeah, you're 100% right. Additionally, the movie's 3 hours and 10 minutes, and what it felt like to me is it felt very episodic in the beginning. Like each 30 minutes kind of has a big conflict that resolves, or that like the story moves on from. So it felt like I watched 6 episodes. I binged 6 episodes of a streaming series. That's what it felt like watching the film. I didn't mind it though. That's what I'm kind of shocked at my own reaction, just because, and I think my reaction is liking it maybe more than I should, only because everything else is so bad. We are literally, if there's an opposite of the Renaissance or the Golden Age, we're living it now. I mean, seriously,
we're in the dark ages of film.
Yeah,
no, for sure.
We've entered the event horizon of a creative black hole.
100%. There's just like so many lapses in logic, and there are characters that are just terrible. There's this character that is like a feral human that lives with them that looks like, none of you will remember this, Shaka from Land of the Lost. Just straight up
God.
Shaka from Land of the Lost. Thank you, my God. Thank you, God, for remembering that. But it's just terrible character. But at the same time, it's almost like there's parts of it like so bad. You're like, but I'm laughing. I'm getting a reaction. I saw Strange World, never laughed once, didn't care. What a god awful film from Disney.
Right.
I think.
But I was going to ask because like the things that you said you liked were things like, well, there's a father's relationship with family. It's a family movie. There's a patriarch. There's people are actually nice people for once rather than everything else. You seem to be comparing it a lot relationally to other movies that we've had in recent times, rather than this as just a movie on its own, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Do you think you're giving it points for stuff that basically should be a baseline?
Oh,
right.
No, 100% I am, because I see a lot. I go to the movies every week. I probably see maybe 8 to 10 films a week. A lot of indie movies that none of you have heard of. Saw a brilliant documentary, if I could throw out a recommendation, Who Am I? And it's a documentary about the Doctor Who feature film that premiered on Fox in the 90s. No one remembers this. And it follows the screenwriter going to Gallifrey 1, which I've attended for years. So the point is there's always other choices out there, right? So I see a lot of movies. The Hollywood movies just tend to just be god-awful. And some highlights here and there. I actually quite liked Barbarian. Thought was very good. The horror film. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
That's pretty interesting. Yeah.
But I'm absolutely giving it points because there is actively, it seems to be an agenda against including a nuclear family in a film. And this is why, to me, the failure of the Buzz Lightyear Pixar movie and the Strange World more recently, the failure of those films sends a message. And the success of this film could send a different message, which is more of this, less of that. And I
think we find ourselves in a difficult position, though, because it's almost like, okay, do we go for like a bad movie that preaches, basically the destruction of any kind of traditional values and the replacement of them with nothing at all, basically the message, or do we go for a really mediocre film that still espouses those values that used to be like endemic to cinema, that used to be so popular, but it's fundamentally not a very good film. And it's like, it's almost like the lesser of two evils here. And it's like, from a guy like James Cameron, who took 13 years to make this film, I guess I just expect more. I expect this to be fucking spectacular, because if you take this long and invest this much money in a film like this, you really need to deliver. You're setting a hell of an expectation for audiences. And it sounds like it's kind of not there.
But this is not the result we were hoping for, is it?
Well, no. And look, this is also, to be clear, this is for normies. I don't think it's for us. This movie is for normies. It really is. It's for normies and it's for families. And on that level, that knowing that that's what he's setting up, and it also felt like in many ways at the beginning, it's like Cowboys and Indians, and we're on the Indian side, and they're Pandorans. It just had that kind of vibe of like, the old frontier and whatnot. But there are just
Pocahontas in space. That's all. It's just John Smith and Pocahontas. I mean, it was almost beat for beat.
Well, the first movie is Dune. The first movie is beat for beat. It's the first Dune novel, frankly.
Right.
And then where it goes here is, and he did also shoot both 2 and 3 back to back. And I guess they're just completing 4. We're talking about photography, not like the digital, because you're seeing a cartoon. Everything is digital, with the exception of some of the actors. The woman whose name escapes me, she plays a general of this base, and she plays Tony Soprano's wife. I can't even think of her name.
Oh, damn!
You can picture her face. In any case,
yeah.
But yeah, no, like, look, I feel like I've been dragged myself through the desert, and this is a glass of water, so to speak. But I can't sit here with a straight face and tell you there aren't some of the stupidest things I've seen in a movie in a long time, especially something that happens at the end that I had to point out to some of the other critics there. I said, you realize, and I just had to point out a logic thing that made no sense. Maybe they'll try to fix it in the follow-up movie. But this pretty much takes place right after the events of the first film. I'm just curious. But again, this is not the Avatar. It's a movie. It's sort of like, why is something like Cirque du Soleil in Vegas, popular
Right.
with families? It's a dumb light show with acrobats, but it appeals
Right.
to everyone. And why is there sort of no cultural footprint, with the exception of a theme park area in Disney World for Avatar? Which is a very popular. I've never been, but according to Drunk 3PO, it's very popular. He has a Pandora channel.
I've been through Pandora in Florida, and like, yeah, the lines for like the flight of the Navi and stuff are crazy. Like, you're basically gonna have to give up your whole day just to wait on that one fucking ride. So if that's your bag, then fine. Like, it's not
So
for
weird
me,
that
but
all of that's a thing, because I just like Avatar was just dead to me for so long.
Yeah.
this is I guess what I want your take on, Chris, is like, the first movie kind of hit that sweet spot. Like, it was able to capitalize on 3D, which was just a real craze at the time. It was visually very impressive because, we hadn't seen something of that scale before. But none of that is going to like hit home anymore. We've had a million visually amazing movies in that time period. And 3D is not a thing anymore. Like, do you realistically see this getting to like the same level as the previous film, like hitting that like $2 billion mark?
I think it has the potential. I didn't think that before I walked in. Before I walked in the theater, I thought, I'm about to walk into a shit show. I'm dreading seeing this. I don't want to sit through this for 3 hours. I did urinate twice, so I might have missed a plot point here and there. But I was surprised, in spite of its enormous flaws. And I would say that it's not as good as the first one. So whatever you thought about the first one, whatever your personal ranking was for it, you might want to knock it down a peg or two.
Fuck, man.
And that's real B. But no, I'm serious. And but like I say, when I'm watching this movie, I'm going, oh, this isn't even for like sci-fi or genre fans. It appeals to everyone. Now, hear me out through my logic. And this is kind of a funny observation too. All of the Earth people that have come there to kind of, plunder the resources of Pandora, they're nearly all white, with the exception of one Asian woman. There's one Asian woman in this movie.
Is she a scientist?
No. He's among the warrior men. There are good humans and there are bad humans. I'm not saying they're all bad. They're not all bad. They're good ones and bad ones. But this movie is going to open internationally. It's going to translate internationally. Have you ever seen like international films that are terrible and you're like, why did Highlander 2 make so much money? I thought that at the time. I saw Highlander 2 in the theater, and I thought it was god-awful. It didn't do too well in America, but it did incredibly well internationally at the time it was released. There are just terrible movies that come out, and they have a universal appeal. What I'm telling you is, what I'm trying to explain is, this movie has a universal appeal to families who have literally had no movies to go to this year, including the movies that would traditionally appeal to that audience are terrible. And no one's going to see them because I think people don't trust Disney anymore. They just don't. I mean, I know I don't. And if my kids were single-digit age, they would not be exposed to anything Disney because I don't trust them.
I totally get what you're saying there, and I can see why this would end up being a success, just purely because any port in a storm kind of situation. Right. At the same time, it's a really shit movie. It's a really shit reason for a film to be massively successful. It's just like, well, it's the best of a horrible bunch.